Good morning, everybody. Brian Lord, Ambry Lofts. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Sunday. What is it? The 4th. Sunday the 4th. Just getting up, getting my coffee going. Looks like it's going to be a good day. Good day for driving. Good day to loft fly. But a good day to drive. So, back to the video that I posted last night about keeping your best youngsters, breeding them back, see what parents you have, move the other ones to tier 2 or eliminate them, that type of thing. Yes, I have 16 individual breeder cages. I've got 16 widowhood boxes. My loft is 60 foot long, 14 foot wide. I have plenty of space. But here's the thing that I would like for you to remember. It's not how many birds you breed. It's how many quality birds you breed, right? So try not to get too wrapped up in that whole numbers game, all right? A lot of clubs, let's say that their shipping limit is 20 birds. And certain guys are always going to have 20 birds, right? They may even break their team into 2 and always have 20 birds to ship every week, but they're not usually the same birds, right? They'll breed 100 youngsters. Don't get discouraged if you only breed 40 youngsters or 30 youngsters or even 20 youngsters, right? Don't get discouraged with that, because you're trying to improve your results, right? And it's usually only a handful of birds that are giving you those results. The rest are just there, right? Or they might have a one-off where they win or they place in the top 10% or something like that, but a lot of times they'll break back off, right? So you're looking for the most consistent birds. It's quality over quantity. Quality over quantity. Yeah, it's great to have the max shipping limit on that very first race in your club. But you're going to eventually wind up losing most of them anyway by the time the third race comes around, if you just keep knuckleheads, right? Just my opinion. What do I know? So for me, even when I lived in Florida, I didn't have, I might start off with a shipping limit, but it clearly would start to deteriorate. Everybody else still shipping limits, and here I am. I've only got 10 birds. Next week I only got 8 birds, 6 birds, 4 birds, right? But that's just the way it was, and especially with this new analytics book and the other book that I mentioned to you, and a lot of research. I read everything that comes down the pipe. There's a lot of you that are subscribed to me. I look at your channels and see what you're doing. I have a couple of others, quite a few of other channels that I watch. So I'm always trying to learn and improve, right? Heck, I might be watching one of your videos and you got some kind of setup in your loft that I just happened to see, and I'll go, hey, that's a good idea. Let me see if I can implement that into my loft. But you want quality over quantity. Quality over quantity. So for young birds, I get really excited when we get to the 200, the 250, and the 300. I put more weight on the 300 than I do the 150. So for me, that 300 is the ultimate test for that young birds. But even if a bird doesn't score good on, maybe that's the race that it's overnight, right? But it's been hitting every race, especially the 250 when it stretched out and the distances got longer. That's okay. That's okay. You've earned your perch. You've earned your perch to be here and then fly as a yearling or an old bird. Okay. I typically try to fly my birds 4 years. So that's young birds, yearlings, and then 2 additional old bird series. Old birds. So the bird's going to be a 4-year-old by the time it retires and becomes a stock bird. That's not to say that I won't take a bird, some youngsters off of them as a yearling, for every year, but you still got to compete. And then when he hits that 4th year, there are exceptions, really good birds or something like that. You might retire them a little bit early, but no, they got to prove themselves, their worth throughout that time, and then I'll just breed from them, And you never know, you might wind up finding that click pair, It's a yearling cock, but it's on a 4-year-old hen, and it just works. Mother Nature, it just works, right? So what we're trying to do in the breeding loft is to assist Mother Nature and stack the deck more in our favor, okay? Because out in nature, out in wild, feral pigeons, just wild animals, undomesticated animals, Mother Nature says that it's the survival of the fittest. Survival of the fittest. So if you pull up Shoemaker Genetics, Dave Shoemaker Genetics, he has a lot of information. I think he even has an analytics book, not analytics, but dealing with DNA and genes, a book about that. But if you go back and look at a lot of his seminars that he's composed together, they're on like a slideshow, and it's free. You can look at it. He has a bell curve, okay? It's got a bell curve. So the average, it's going to be the top of the bell curve. That's going to be, well, not the average, but the cream of the crop. It's going to be the top of that bell curve, and either your birds are on their way up or they're on their way down, right? But Mother Nature is going to basically have the average. Mother Nature will basically have the average for that species of birds. Some are good, some are bad, but on average, this is what they do, right? What we're trying to do by selectively breeding is bring that average up higher, right? We want to find that Seattle Slew. We want to find that Secretariat. We want to find, some of these great animals that, happen to come into our lives, once a generation, or, once every 10 years. You get just everything lines up, genetics, the stars, the atmosphere, and that animal is unstoppable, right? So just some thoughts this morning. Quality over quantity. Don't be afraid. Don't let these guys cack you, because there's a lot of crap talking, which to me makes the sport really fun, because I like to talk crap too. I'm gonna beat you this week. I'm only shipping 2 birds. But it only takes one to win. And yes, you don't have to have a lot of birds to fly against those mob flyers that always ship the max to win. I have the firm belief that a good bird will find its way through. I don't care if it's 100 birds it's flying against or 1,000 birds it's flying against. If you've got 15 flyers within a 5-mile radius of where you live, like GHC or something like that, or you're like me and you got 80 miles overfly to the east, everybody else is clocking birds and turned off their clock, and you're just now starting to get birds home. You can do it. Your birds could do it. I did it in GHC one year. We were flying out of Ocala, and for old birds we would partner on with the GHC Unit 10 for federation races. So we'd have our club race, our combine race, and then we'd have federation with those boys. And if any of you know about the GHC Unit 10 Spring Hill, that's where all the mega flyers from across the country seem to retire, and they continue to fly pigeons down there. I've seen pigeon lofts down there that were just as expensive as somebody's house, look like museums, hey, I love it. But on this one particular race, I think it was the 400 for a federation race, I sent just a handful of birds, because that's all I had. And my bird came home. It was a little black hen, and it was actually my daughter's hen that she had bought at the club auction the year before. So that was really exciting that my little girl was able to have her bird clock like that. She won some money, but it wound up being 24th federation out of like 3,000 pigeons. Man, you want to talk about emotional roller coaster? I was on a high. You couldn't tell me shit. I had it all figured out. I had her set up on eggs, all this stuff. But it just, that was her day. That was her day. That was probably her best result in 3 years. But it's okay. It's fun. But you want to breed out of those birds that are performing well. Bring in new birds. It's going to help elevate your loft, right? Equal to or better than. I can't stress that enough. Let's see, what else I want to talk about today. One loft races. So there's a bunch out there. Seems like every year you get 5 or 10 new ones, 2 or 3 older ones drop off, right? I get it. That's a lot of work. But what I do when I'm going to select a one loft race, I'm a data guy, so I'll look at the analytics of that particular race. Some are more transparent than others. So what I do is I'll look back and see what was the average speed winner's speed for that year. And I don't know, maybe they pay top 5, maybe they pay the top 10%. I don't care. So if they pay the top 5, I'll write down those top 5 average speeds. And then I'll go to the very last race, whether it's a 400, a 350, or 300, whatever it is. And how many birds did they ship and how many did they clock? I want to see that percentage. And then I'll usually write down like the top 20%, the top race winner, and the last 20%er to kind of get an average. What's the average speed for each race? And I'll write all that down. It's time consuming. It really is. It's time consuming. But you got to put in the work. And to me, this is putting in the work. And then I'll see how many did they start off with. And it's all a numbers game. And we'll say, okay, well, on the very final race, they lost 20%, 30%, 40%, whatever it is. And then, okay, cool. You see how they handle the birds. Are they transparent? Do they train a lot? Do they not train a lot? Do they always seem to be on medication? Whatever, right? Again, my birds are natural, so I try not to do all that stuff. I want to send them to a one loft race where they use very little medication, other than just a preventative every now and then, right? Because my birds do better like that. So then we'll say, okay, I got this race, I've researched it, and I'm going to compare it to this race, research it, blah, 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 blah. I try to send my birds to races that are either, I like the way, they're transparent as hell, and I like the way that the one loft manager trains or feeds, or his philosophy, her philosophy, whichever. That's like key 1 for me. Key 2 is what type of terrain is the birds flying over, right? So like I go to the Apple Cup. When you look at any of Rick Mee's videos for the Apple Cup, you see mountains way off in the distance, and he'll video every training spot, show you what it looks like that day, where the mountains are, so you kind of get a sense of where you are on the map. Each race station's the same way, and I mean, they got mountains, they got valleys, they got ridges, they got the Columbia River, which is the big crux. That's the gauntlet on that race. Flatland, highlands, flying over forests, flying over just prairie type stuff. So to me, that's a very good race because the terrain is unpredictable and it's hard. The bird has to not only be fast and consistent, it's got to be smart, because if it makes the wrong turn at any particular location, now it's on the backside of that mountain range or ridge line or something like that, and it's going to get lost, or it's going to be gone for a day before it figures out that it took the wrong turn. So I like that race. Some of the others, like in Texas, Texas pretty much flatland, right? A lot of heat, a lot of humidity. So if I'm looking at a race down there, and I've got a very good friend, Yanni Saints, that runs the Black Gold race. I've known him for years. I've purchased some birds off of him in the past. Actually, his labella line, his blade line, stuff like that. He runs a very transparent, open race too. Same with the Cuvas Classic. I like those guys. I haven't entered them yet, but though down there I'm gonna need a lot more speed, right? They're averaging 1,400 yards a minute and above typically. We're out there at the Apple Cup. I have it in my computer, but it's like 1367 is the average. So if my birds are only clocking at 12 and 13, see, that's why I needed more speed. That's why I brought in something that would be a little bit faster. Hopefully the babies will be a little bit faster. So whatever races you select, they have to complement your breeders, right? If you got a family of birds that are only in the 1200s, why would you send them to a speed race at 1,400, 1,500 yards a minute? They can't do it. Genetically, they can't do it, right? You're going to burn them out. You're going to lose them. So you're pretty much breeding for the races that you want to compete in. Is that a better way of saying it? And you can start like with your club racing. In my club in Kentucky, well, when I was with Lexington, or I'll just say Combine, Kentucky Combine, because that incorporates everybody in the state of Kentucky. They're pretty much middle distance flyers, even for old birds. They have one 400 miler and one 500 miler. That's it. Now, coming from Florida, that was a shock to me because we had two 400 milers, two 500 milers, and one 600 miler. And so that's what I came to Kentucky with, was mostly long distance birds. So I'm trying to win, middle distance races with long distance birds. So you look at your race schedule for your combine or your club and say, okay, write down all the races. 200 or 225, 250 and shorter. 250 and shorter, that's a short race. 251 to 350, that's going to be a middle distance race. 351 and up is going to be considered like long distance racing. See how many races you have in those three categories. If the majority of your races are short to medium, then the same percentage of those races, let's just say that 75% of your races are short to middle distance for young birds, and only 25% are long, that 350 or 4, whatever you guys do. So that directly has to match your breeders. So you want 75% short to middle distance breeders and only 25%, for middle to long distance, right? Because the bulk of your races are going to be in that category. So why be flip-flop like I was, where I had, 75% of my breeders were long distance and only a quarter were middle distance. I was backwards, totally backwards. Now I'm grateful and I'm thankful for the birds that made it through that. But that's when I didn't really know better. I was just winging it. I thought I knew what was going on, and all that stuff, until I got a hold of these books, started reading a lot of articles and stuff. So your breeder pairs need to match the percentage of races you have at what distances. So that'll really help you. Let me get some coffee. So I'm looking at a couple more one lofts. There's one over in West Virginia. I think it's called the Potomac one loft race, Potomac River one loft race, something like that. It's relatively new. The terrain is identical to where I live, right? Because they're in West Virginia. They fly south from the south, go straight down I-81. And I think their longest race they turn out in like North Carolina. So they got to fly north, back up across Virginia into West Virginia, in that whole Appalachian Mountain range. Well, I live at the foothills of that, so I'm really thinking about sending some birds out there, because the geographic or topical mapping of it all is very similar to where I live. So that might be something good. I did request 6 perches for that one. I requested 6 perches out of the Apple Cup, and I think I signed up for another one. I can't remember. I'll need to log in, but I think the other one that I'm signed up for is like out of Utah or something like that, Idaho, something like that. Again, the speeds for the last year or two are comparable to what I'm trying to breed now, and I want it to be a tough race. I really don't like blow-home races, fast speed races, because I don't have the birds for that. They're great to see. I want to see working races, what they call working races. The bird has to think, it has to navigate, it's got to keep a pace. That last race, I want to see the birds up. I would prefer to see the birds up 8.5 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours on the wing. That's right. Run it like the gauntlet. I want to see which birds are either too dumb to quit, or just have a heart like a lion and say, there ain't no quitting me, I'm coming home. Those are the birds that I like. But just some random thoughts this morning. Hope you guys are doing good. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch up with you in a couple days. Bye.